Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 16th night. Can you imagine?
Out
Of,
of 21.
yes, of the Joy and Success Challenge. And I found myself really reflective today. I don't know how the challenge has been affecting you, but it's definitely been affecting us. It's definitely been affecting me. And what about you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, although I talked to my dissertation advisor today, and I could tell that he would like me to quadruple the amount of time I'm writing per day. So here I am wanting to get in at least 1 hour. That's part of my easy task to take me toward a destiny goal every day. And he wants me to do quadruple the time. I thought, well, at least I'm working my way up. We keep talking about muscle building in here. So, yeah.
Yeah, working our way up. And so we're gonna just jump in tonight. We're doing a famous scientist, and my
Mhm.
husband is a historian of science. And so this was your first presentation in grad school, this person?
Well, when I went to Indiana University, one of the very first people I presented on. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really put me on the spot there, honey.
No,
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 just
that's
kidding. Just
okay.
kidding.
And then we were just in Regensburg when we did our last trip. We did 6 countries. We did Istanbul, Turkey, Germany,
Germany, Czech
Czech
Republic,
Republic,
Slovakia,
Slovakia,
Hungary,
Hungary, and
Austria.
Austria. Yes, and
Yes.
it was an amazing trip. And some of
And
you,
so in Regensburg,
yes.
that's where Johannes Kepler died. And I didn't even know that, but I was thinking, how awful. And I didn't even visit the grave. Well, it turns out I looked into this a little bit. His grave is lost. I mean, he died during the 30 Years' War. It was a crazy time in Europe. So we don't know where his body
Yeah, we had
is.
some good tours.
Yeah.
I'm specifically remembering the guy who took us to the castle that morning. Was it a castle or was it the House of Parliament? I'm missing. I didn't get to go on the castle tour, the palace tour. This was one, it was a gentleman. He picked us up. It was a walking tour, and he told us all about what was happening at the time. Okay. It was great.
It's so great. It's so memorable.
So
That
memorable. I just don't remember
was-
which castle it was and what we were doing. There were lots of castles, guys. It
Yeah.
was a castle tour of Europe.
Uh,
We saw castles till we were dizzy.
anyway,
All right, but so let's get started with this evening's topic. Welcome to the Joy and Success Challenge, and it really is our joy. This has been for us 9 years, 5 months, and I think it's 21 days counting. So we received a prophetic word on March 3rd, 2016. And we've been listening to it this week, and so we can count the time from the time we first heard that word to what we're doing now. And this is our inaugural ministry event that is the run-up to the official launch of life culture, what some people might call ministries, you know.
that's right. Yes,
So
starting on August 30th, that will be our launch date. And we decided to do a 4 p.m. service that day. So it's
yes,
going to be
so
at 4 o'clock.
if you would like to join us, we would send you the link. If you are well, you could be any part of the world and you would like to join us in person, we could DM me and we would see how we could make some accommodations work. We do have some accommodations, so do thank you, Mama Fan. Do let us know what
Are
it's
you?
there. It
Okay.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
So do let us know um if you would like to come. All right. So let's see if we start,
Let's
then I
jump right
should be
in
able
then.
to.
So we're very intentionally beginning our days, of course, in this 21-day joy success challenge. And we start with engaging Jesus first thing. We thank him for two things and write it down. So entering the gates with thanksgiving in our hearts. And then we read two joy verses in the Bible. And that's been fun. Starting the day right, getting some early easy wins. Then we look at our destiny goals. Well, we pick one destiny goal in particular that we know is something that's part of our calling, one of the reasons why we're here on Earth. So we've chosen one of those to review every day, and then one task we can do toward achieving that goal daily, a very simple task. And then we do the task, right? And we have two I am statements that we're doing every day. I am responsible and I am strong and able. So start, so, yeah, strong and capable. So we're starting our days intentionally and getting off on the right foot. And we're tuning into the right frequency as we keep emphasizing. So we don't want to be on the wrong radio station, right? Yoked to someone else or in the wrong kingdom. We want to be in the right kingdom, kingdom radio, right?
Yes. And we see this lady here, she's set her frequency, she's tuning her frequency, she's holding, well, you can't see the bottom there, but it looks like a Bible app. So she has her phone, but she has another small device in front of it that she's reading. I know that there's now these electronic Bibles that could fit like in the palm of your hand, and it's something like that that she's actually reading there. So we don't want to just set the time for every morning. We want to set the tone
Mhm.
for each new day.
Oh,
Yeah.
and please, what is this about, Lovey?
So the
Hmm,
question that Dana is asking is, are you living based on what is your ceiling or what is your floor? And
it's a shiny floor.
well, are your standards changing? Your floor is your standard, right? And
That's right.
I
Your
never
floor is what you will tolerate, what you will accept in life.
I never understood the whole concept of the floor like this before this challenge. As the minimum that I will accept. That is the floor. So
Mhm.
what are you accepting in your life? What are you allowing to persist? That
Mhm.
is your floor.
Yeah. Maybe I can put up with a lot. I used to put up with a lot of extra noise that wasn't very conducive toward achieving any important goals. Oh my. I mean, talk about getting lots of urgent things thrown at me constantly and just reacting, batting down urgent balls thrown my way constantly. And removing those one by one has been really key toward being able to focus on what's important. And last night we saw what was important to George Washington Carver. Mm. And saw how he saved agriculture in the South.
He saved the South.
Yeah, he
Not just
saved a lot of
agriculture or
poor
the economy.
farmers.
Yeah, he saved his people. He saved the South. A very compelling story. I like the people side of it. I like that some white former slave owners spent their money to redeem a black baby too
Mhm.
and raise them as their own. Well, at least for till he was 12, between 10 and 12, and he had to leave to pursue further education. And boy, what a pursuit! What a pursuit that was. What a pursuit that was. So yeah, the question is, are your standards changing?
Mhm.
And you're encouraging us to incorporate the joy, the calm delight, showing appreciation, but you're wanting us to write it down, reflect and listen, right?
Yes, that's very important. Once we write our goals down, they take on a greater importance. If they're not written down, and scientific studies have shown this, they tend to be forgotten or at least devalued. Isn't that something? So if we're building muscles consistently day after day, we need to take advantage of everything that's going to help us toward achieving our goals. And I saw Gordon is here and I was so impressed that he's writing a book and I don't know. I just pray that this is helping him a bit.
Right, absolutely. So
Mhm.
we're talking about seeing it, believing it, and doing it, right? So
Mhm.
whatever I see, the song, if I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I could fly, right? And I thought that this quote by Rhonda Byrne was very nice. There are two kinds of people, those who say, I'll believe it when I see it, and those who understand that to see it, I know I must believe. And so, hun,
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been talking about this, putting on a joy armor or a vision armor. So we're really empowering our words, what we say, with belief, with imagination, with going to our future selves, like imagining ourselves a few years in the future or whenever, when we see an important goal being completed and celebrating that goal being completed, what that will feel like. That type of imagination, also scientifically proven, helps one to achieve their goals. So anything we can do to help achieve destiny goals we're all about, right? Just like George Washington Carver last night in his 300 plus uses for the peanut.
yeah, and I mean, you're asking the question here, are my muscles growing?
Mhm.
That is, do I have a higher floor and do I get easy wins with consistent action? And today I found myself having to say within myself, oh Lord, I repent because I'm realizing there's some things that I don't believe. I say it. I say that I
Mm.
see it. I say that I want it, but the honest truth that I've had to come to realize today, just in quiet time reflecting with the Lord, is that I don't believe. And so we're asking you to not take this process as a superficial one, but to really let the challenge let the process go through you and see what's there beneath the surface. And so I want to encourage you to really believe. The whole power of this is to look at your dream and see yourself as that thing. See yourself. So, a lady who has a weight goal or a gentleman who has a career goal, the idea is when you look in your mind's eye or when you look in the mirror, you don't see yourself as you are, but you see yourself as you will be. And that is what I think really brought it home for me. When I see myself, do I see myself as I am, or do I see myself as I I am believing that I will be. So
Mm.
for a single person, do you see yourself married? For someone who wants a house, do you see yourself as a homeowner? For someone who wants a career acceleration or a business development or a contract or whatever, is that what you see? You know?
Oh, look at that. That's a fitting slide. Praise before you see it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm. So again, just to recap the themes we've been going over ad nauseum in the last so many days, the last couple weeks. Um, we want to set the tone with God's presence, first thing. We want to give ourselves a win, first thing. We're rewiring our brains. So that builds momentum when you get a few easy wins first thing in the morning. We believe in proactivity, not just reacting to whatever's thrown at us, right? So instead of letting the day happen to us, we meet it with expectation and we meet it with a grateful heart. And then we have follow through, right? Following through builds trust with yourself and with God. So you want to build that trust, but it's best to do that with something simple. And we have a 5 minute plan, don't we? It doesn't take long. Follow through is very important. It's empowering. So we're empowering ourselves. So this is about excellence, it's about standards. And once again, we're not tolerating what we used to, right? I don't think God wants us to tolerate very little. We do allow too much crazy stuff in our lives.
Yeah, and we understand that with God, it's a moving from glory to glory. And there's the path of the righteous goes brighter and brighter to that day. And so that's a big piece.
All right, love. So again, a little bit about us, the Life Culture family.
And we are here to encourage you and to be a scaffolding if need be, a community if need be, friends if need be, um, teachers, a place to grow together, and sometimes just some eagles to fly with. I know that for some people, you've done church for a long time, you've been in Christ for a long time, you are worded, you are prayed up, you are you're knowledgeable. But it may be that there isn't a place for you to fellowship. Okay, where yeah, there isn't a place for you to fellowship where you can share what you know in a place where that is where deep is accepted, deep is wanted, and we want to be we are that place, that type of people. We're really big on practical Christianity. Yes, healing hearts, putting believers back together. We have a facility, the Heart Spa in St. Mary's, Ohio, which we will soon on board, or we will soon advertise as officially opening or launching. But we do a lot of travel abroad, and our focus is on life and fullness of life and life quality.
Mhm.
So these are all the things that we are about. Family. We want to be a family of families. A place where every age and every stage can grow together, worship, study the word, share. We want to be a smorgasbord for you to encounter God and for God to encounter you, and for us to do that together. So that leads us to Dane's daily etymology.
Okay. Once again, looking at the history of origins of words, the origin and the evolution of words. And so we were looking at definitions for success, and we went yesterday to the Greek language, Aristotle's understanding of success in Greek, eudaimonia. And let me read that again, and then we'll say a little bit more about it tonight. So this is translated as human flourishing or living well, which is so fitting for us, right? Life culture. It brings together joy, calm delight, and success. So, translated as human flourishing, living well, it's a concept from ancient Greek philosophy, and it goes beyond simple pleasure. It's a state of being characterized by living a life of virtue, purpose, and meaning, where one is actively striving for excellence and fulfilling their potential. And to us, we would say their their calling, right? Their scroll, what God gave them to do. And it's not a fleeting feeling, but rather a continuous process of growth and self-improvement. And it's closely linked to living a life aligned with one's values and contributing to something larger than oneself. And you can uh, look at something, well, let's compare it to happiness. Happiness is a very different word with a very different meaning. Happiness can be associated with hedonism, uh, which is associated with pleasure, comfort, avoiding pain. It's funny because you had these Epicureans emerge during like the Hellenistic period, a few centuries before Christ, and their whole philosophy was about avoiding pain and avoiding fear and avoiding the fear of death. And so these Epicureans, they were seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, but that was counter to eudaimonia. So happiness or hedonism, while enjoyable, this perspective can be fleeting and superficial and focuses on immediate gratification. So we're not into that. We're into eudaimonia, living a life of virtue, striving for excellence, and contributing to something meaningful. It's a more enduring state of well-being, and it comes from living in accordance with one's values and purpose. And so, what a beautiful way to encapsulate success together with calm delight, I find.
And so here we have some virtues, wisdom, and a
Hmm.
lot of things under that, courage, humanity, transcendence, justice, and moderation. They go with eudaimonia as joy and success. So over to you, Han.
Mhm.
So eudaimonia as joy and
Yeah.
success.
Yeah. So, key aspects, living virtuously. For example, that involves cultivating and practicing virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues guide actions and contribute to a more fulfilling life. Um, Pursuing excellence, eudaimonia encourages striving for excellence in all aspects of life, whether it's one's work, relationships, or personal development. Finding purpose and meaning. It's about discovering one's unique potential and contributing to something larger than oneself, whether it's through work relationships or community involvement. So we'll look at some more tomorrow, but it involves ongoing growth, involves purposeful action, internal validation, and let's touch on those other aspects tomorrow in a little more depth.
Excellence versus mediocrity. Yep.
Mhm. All right,
Awesome.
love. So you've been taking us into the tabernacle, into the Holy of Holies. We got into the gates with Thanksgiving, and you keep giving us some insight here. What do you have for us tonight, besides a bunch of sheep who seem pretty content?
Yeah, the Lord is my shepherd, Those sheep shall not want. They look very, So I think that we've kind of gone through the gate. We're establishing that every morning and into the court with praise and our joy verses. And we've covered all of that. And if you don't know what we're talking about, do listen to all of the nights before on the YouTube channel, all of the do subscribe. Guys, we invite you to when you go to the Facebook group, you'll see the link for the videos. Do subscribe to the channel when you go there, so that you'll get everything when the
Are the
first
last few nights on
comes
there?
available. Yeah, I think only last night it still needs to be on there, but all
Okay.
the other nights are there.
Okay.
All the other nights
Except
are there.
for Abraham, but we'll do
Right,
that
and
later. We're going to redo a redo of that one.
they loop. So when you finish with one, the other one comes up, or the
Okay.
one before comes up, and so on. So the I think that we established that we all want the ability to get results. We want the power to get results. Power is ability to get results. And that is what success is. Success is evidence, success is results. Do you have the results? If you have no results, you don't have success. I mean, it's as simple as that. And so power is the ability to get results. And we see here in this picture of the tabernacle, we see the cloud. We normally show it by night, right? Pictures of it by night are spectacular because it's the fire, it's the light, all this light, fire in the dark. But this is what it may have looked like, at least to some in the day, a pillar of cloud that would keep them cool in the desert. And for all of my life,
Hmm.
until this challenge, this is what I thought that looked like. And for many of us, I feel as though this is what success looks like. This is what pursuit of success looks like. It looks like us outside here. If you could see my cursor, it looks like the people outside here who will follow the protocol and do everything to get to the power in the back here. And through this challenge, we've been talking about what it looks like to honor that, and then what it looks like for God's glory to barge out from there and meet you. But there's something that I never understood before this challenge. And it is, I was surprised. I was surprised to see this painting here with this canopy again
Hmm.
over the people. And my thought is, oh my goodness. Whereas I thought that success was something that I was accomplishing alone, this image,
Hmm.
which is the full image, shows that you're not accomplishing this alone at all.
Hmm.
You are here, but you're very covered. If
Hmm.
you could see the whole, you're not trying to get into something here. This big cloud is over you. This big cloud is helping you. I mean, when I think of God's thoughts toward me here, No, it's the same picture. It's the same picture. I'm just showing you the bottom half in this picture, and I'm showing you the deliberately, and I'm showing you the top half in this picture, but it's the exact same picture. But all of my life, I understood God's presence this way,
Hmm.
and success this way, and God's thoughts toward me this way. And they say if a picture paints 1,000 words, then why can't I paint you? Um, But man, this is a very different, this is a shift now.
It's, we were looking at Wilberforce the other day, and he was very careful, very intentional to use that word again, about where he positioned himself. He wanted to preach, but God told him where to go. You stay in politics. That's where you're going to fulfill your destiny assignment. And then gave him everything he needed to do that. But he could not be out of position either.
Right. And so this takes us to Psalm 16:8. In your presence, I will show you the ways of life. Lord, you will show me the ways of life. In your presence, in the face place, there is fullness of joy. And I always thought that I had to get to the Holy of Holies or God's presence.
Hmm.
The Shekinah will come out to meet me, but I always thought it looked like this.
Hmm.
I never conceptualized that what. Now, imagine if you are one of these people living in one of these tents, and this is I mean, let's imagine that this is the reality alone that you saw. You just knew God's presence is there, we see it, you look toward it, you turn your face toward the presence. But it is a completely different thing to turn your face toward the presence as opposed to we are covered
Hmm.
by the presence. And that's all I want to share tonight is to get to shift, to invite you to shift
Hmm.
into an acknowledging that God is covering you. And then I ask myself, what would I believe of myself if I understand that
Hmm.
He is covering me? What have I not done that I would do if I understood more fully that He is covering me, that He is over me, that He's already where I am, covering everything that I will ever do? How do I show up differently if I understand that? And I
Hmm.
found myself repenting quite a lot because that's when I realized there's a lot of stuff I don't yet
Hmm.
believe. And
Hmm.
so I don't know if these pictures are doing for you what they've done for me, but I invite you to take that journey. And this is a night. I was surprised to find all these images with that sense of this one is even bigger, where that sense of the abiding it's not a pillar that goes up that way, but a pillar that blankets out. Just just something that was new in conceptualization to me. But think about it in the night sky. If this was your reality, you will not be afraid.
Hmm. Hmm.
You would not be afraid. And so I invite you. That's all I've got, hon. I'm just inviting us, and again, we're doing this one
Yes.
to 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 understand
Yeah.
that we are covered.
And I love that again, that idea of fullness of joy. And like when you're really filled with the Holy Spirit and you're soaking and nothing's wrong in the universe, everything is perfect. And it looks like this is a visual of
Yeah, the
that.
wings of the Lord kind of thing. I mean, how secure, the security. I mean, the wonder that all the other nations would have. They'd be like, their God sure knows how to take care of them. And so these images challenge me and
Yeah.
they challenge my belief and my faith. What,
What's
hon?
he's just what's he saying? He's saying, let's go down there. What do you think? I mean,
Yeah,
how close do we want to get?
yeah, we want to join their
We're
people.
just hanging out here.
They take outsiders.
Yeah, they're on the outside of the camp, it looks like. They might be part of the camp just. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get to our verse, tonight we're going to be studying Johannes Kepler, the joyful astronomer. And he lived in a marvelous, momentous time because Martin Luther had launched the Reformation in 1517. So we know religiously Europe was on fire with that. But also in 1543, uh, Copernicus, Nicholas Copernicus, launched the scientific revolution. He had the audacity to publish a work right on his deathbed in 1543, a work that put the sun in the center of the universe on the revolutions of the heavenly spheres, rather than the earth at the center. So this was a culture absolutely convinced the earth was the center of the universe and that humans were at the very center of the cosmic drama. And this was really scary, this idea that no, maybe we have it wrong. There had been a few ancient theorists who had speculated maybe the earth goes in an orbit around the sun, but Copernicus showed mathematically uh, why this was the only viable argument. So Johannes Kepler, he takes both of these revolutions to heart. First of all, he's born into a Lutheran family, so he becomes Lutheran. He's a Lutheran, part of the Reformation, living in Catholic cities, so he was persecuted a lot. And then he's part of this scientific revolution too, because he believed what Copernicus said. And he was ostracized for many, by many for that as well. So we'll be looking at his story. But let's start with Psalm 19:1, honey.
And the ESV says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork." Kind of very the same KJV. "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." And then the Passion says, "God's splendor is a tale that is told. His testament is written in the stars." Space itself speaks his story every day through the marvels of the heavens. She
I'm
can
sorry, you know what's
she
hilarious?
can have her. She can have this one.
My daughter just grabbed my notebook. I was like, where are my notes? And then I look and she's drawing and
She could have
here,
this
use
one.
this one, sweetheart. This is good, sweetheart.
Oh,
But I
she could
need
have
this
that
one.
black one.
Or you want this one? Give you two different ones.
All right,
I need
yes.
my notes, honey.
All right, so this is the gentleman that we're studying tonight.
Yes, so Johannes Kepler. So I already mentioned he's a Lutheran and he's a scientist who is espousing Copernican views. And those were really quite controversial. I mean, Galileo got into some trouble for that. I don't want to talk about the Galileo affair, but the two knew each other, by the way, too. Um, what a genius he was, though. He he's the one who found delight in discovering God's geometric perfection in planetary orbits. So what a great astronomer, one of the most brilliant scientists we've ever seen. Um, he gave us the three laws of planetary motion. I don't know if you're familiar with these, but he showed that the planets move in, not here though, here. Let's come back to this later. Yeah. He showed that the planets move in elliptical orbits instead of perfect circles. And I mean, in the planetary laws, among other things, he showed that as a planet nears the sun, it speeds up in its orbit. Basically, he's giving us laws of celestial physics, and that was brand new. Before the scientific revolution, astronomy was usually studied under mathematics. So, so they thought about the heavens as just a realm that is completely predictable, no changes. They thought that when you look at the heavens, you're in a realm of perfect circles, which was completely wrong, but they thought out in the heavens, everything is perfect. So the only motion befitting the heavens is a perfect circle. And and they thought that the planets and the heavenly bodies, they called the planets, by the way, wandering stars. They thought that they just always followed set patterns. So this was more uh, in the mode of mathematical thinking. So they were making calendars through astronomical predictions. They were trying to come up with really good tables to show where a star would be on a given day or where a planet would be on a given day. So let's go 300 years in the future. Um, can you say where Mars will be exactly, precisely? Right? And that's really hard to do. Can you imagine the work that goes into that? You have to follow the motions of the heavens and then chart daily. And there were people doing that. There had been like 1400 years earlier, some great scientists during the Roman Empire who were doing some of that work. But like Ptolemy was one. Ptolemy, a very famous astronomer from the ancient world, and but what did he do? He put the Earth at the center of the universe, and he put all the planets, including the sun, going around the Earth daily. And then he put the stars affixed to a sphere, and they were going around the Earth every day. And for fun, the Christians put heaven in their cosmography, their maps of the universe. And so Copernicus was in the 16th century looking at this and realizing that uh, there were some problems with this view of the heavens. That you couldn't explain, for example, why Mars sometimes seemed to be going backwards, retrograde motion going backwards in the heavens. So if you're charting Mars from night to night against the backdrop of all the stars, it it will be speeding up Mars, and then it will slow down, and then it will be going backwards, and then it will slow down, and then it will go forwards again. And Ptolemy, he was saying, well, what happens is Mars is going in circles around a greater circular orbit. This was called an epicycle. And Copernicus said, this is ridiculous. There's so much mathematical complication that's unnecessary in this description of the universe and the motions of the heavenly bodies. And so Copernicus simply changed things up. He put the Earth in motion around the sun. Right? He put the other planets in motion around the sun. Only the moon was in motion around the Earth. So Kepler, he read this and said, Copernicus is brilliant. And he went a few steps further. So Kepler took astronomy from merely mathematics and a description of where the heavenly bodies are and started thinking about the physics of all of this, like how fast the planets were going in their orbits, and does their speed change? And so what happened is he ended up in Prague, a very Catholic city. He was called there uh, by his friend and mentor named Tycho Brahe. And Brahe was a great astronomer, and he'd been hired by Emperor Rudolph II. So the Holy Roman Emperor, basically the ruler of Germany, um, loved to study not just the occult, but he loved to study science. And he was trying to create the best astronomical tables that had ever been devised. And Brahe was wonderful at following the stars and charting them, and he was creating the greatest tables that had ever existed. They would be called the Rudolphin tables. But Kepler went to Prague to work with Brahe and help him a little bit with these tables. And then Brahe died, and Kepler took over. And Brahe had been kind of guarding these tables. He wouldn't allow Kepler complete access. But after he died, Kepler had complete access. And this is when he started really studying the data. And through those studies, he was able to discover the three laws of planetary motion. And he started thinking about things like, well, how is it that the Earth is being held by the sun in this orbit, right? How can you explain this causally? And he thought of the sun as a great magnet. And of course, that's not correct, but it was brilliant compared to saying, look, it's just attached to a sphere that's moving in a circle, right? I mean, it's much more sophisticated. And Isaac Newton then is looking at what Kepler was dealing with and says, wow, let's explore this in depth in these tables in depth. And he comes up with his universal laws of gravitation. So this is all exceptionally important. But but Kepler, I mean, what a remarkable man. He's the first person, by the way, who came to understand that every snowflake is unique. He was studying crystals, so he's important there. He's important in optics. He was the first who understood that the eye takes, well, how the eye deals with light. It takes objects and gives them to our retina upside down, and then our brain has to flip the object the right side up. And because of this knowledge, he was able to create better glasses. And then he improved on the telescope. Galileo, too, had improved on the telescope. And then Kepler improved on it. I mean, what a remarkable man. But what a lot of people don't understand about Kepler is just how mystical he was and how spiritual he was. He loved God's creation. He talked about being intoxicated, seeing the geometry in the heavens. And can we go to the slide of the solids? Look at this. So this is one of his earliest writings. He wrote a book called the Mysterium Cosmographicum, and this was 1597. And he said, well, the sun has to be at the center, and but let's put all of the planets in an orbit that fits around the Platonic solids. So you have the cube, which is also like fire, and you have a planet going around that. Then you have an octahedron, the eight-sided dice, right? And you have a planet going around that. And you have a cube, which is the Earth here, and you have a planet going around that. Now, Plato had thought something similarly. I mean, a couple millennia before, and had even thought about the base matter of the universe in terms of these solids. That's why they're called the Platonic solids. And so Kepler is saying in the late 16th century, oh, look, maybe the planets are going in orbits around a solid, and he created this beautiful looking machine to encapsulate the cosmography. Uh, but later he would abandon this, and he realized we have to get rid of circular orbits. That was a big problem with Copernicus because he got rid of a lot of ancient cosmology in his new heliocentrism with the sun at the center of the universe. But he didn't get rid of this idea that everything in the heavens has to move in perfect circles. But Kepler, evaluating the data, largely what Brahe had been observing, um, comes up with these laws of planetary motion. The very first, the planets don't move in perfect circles, but in ellipses, egg-like orbits around the sun. And he writes about that later, a couple decades later, in his Astronomia Nova, his new astronomy. And it's just remarkable to think about this character. A couple things. Uh, Not only was he so obsessed with God's perfect geometry, he thought the heavens were always singing. He talked about the harmony of the spheres. He was a musician and he was trying to find God's tuning system. And he actually assigned the planets vocal parts in the great choir, like, the tenor and the alto and the bass. And imagine them all singing. And this is what he saw when he looked at the heavens. He saw something beautiful in the creation, and it was his obsession to understand what God had created, to understand these laws and to understand this perfect geometry. But he would not leave his faith. Lutheranism, he got a job, by the way. So he had been at Tübingen studying to be a pastor. So a lot of these guys, they end up in a different field, even though they long to preach, right? He had longed to preach, but no, he gets called away to Graz so in the Holy Roman Empire. He's going to be there a math teacher. But the funniest thing happened. He gets to Graz and he couldn't get enough students in his classes. He wasn't making any money back then. You needed students, otherwise you didn't get paid. Because oftentimes the students were paying their professors. So if you were a poor lecturer, you couldn't eat, right? But there he is at Graz, and he's making calendars on the side. I mean, few people have that talent, right? Being able to make calendars on the side. But if you're a great astronomer who can read these tables, you can do it. But eventually, because he was Lutheran, he was forced out. Same thing happens in Prague. Uh, the 30 Years' War is about to break out between Catholics and Protestants in the 16 teens, and he's in the wrong city. Protestants are going to rebel right there in Prague at the capital of the Habsburgs, the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, basically. There he is. He's at the court, but he's a Lutheran, and the Protestants rebel, and that rebellion is put down. But he sees everything. He sees the writing on the wall. He gets out of there. He ended up at a place called Linz, and there he runs into the same problem. So he would have to leave there because of his Lutheran faith. So I'm just saying, I find it remarkable that he's always impassioned to study God's geometry, but he also never gives up his faith under extreme persecution. At one point, his mother got accused of witchcraft. He spent a year defending her and became a lawyer. He came up with her defense plan and used rationalism to get her exonerated. Thank God, because horrible things were happening in Europe at the time. The 30 Years' War, I mean, it devastated Europe so much that William Harvey, who was a great Englishman who discovered the circulation of the blood, he said that he was an anatomist. He loved to explore animals and cut them open, learn about their bodies. He said he couldn't find an animal, a bird, anything, a rat, and the reason
Yes.
the people were
They were
desperate, they're
hungry.
starving. They're eating every animal around. And then you had plague hitting and then witchcraft trials. And Europe was a dangerous place to be in. And it's amazing to me that Kepler stuck to his guns throughout these studies. And he did eventually finish what Brahe had started and what Rudolph wanted to see happen, created the greatest astronomical tables. But I think that's pretty much enough on Kepler.
Okay, so we see him here in his studio, just working with, reasoning with. Is this the emperor he's talking to here, you think?
It looks like it. Rudolph was such an interesting man. He brought all sorts of alchemists and astrologers to the court, and he was trying to make gold, make money. Of course, with these alchemists, they weren't actually mostly making gold at that time. It's one thing alchemists could do, but they were mostly trying to find better medicines with their laboratory experiments. But he was funding all of that. He right there at the court. It's really exciting time in the history of science because he was funding a lot of the scientific revolution. All right, Lovey. So let's go then to the joy science.
Yes, and now we're looking at how all of this affects the brain. And the daily scientific facts show that people who find pleasure in seeing that what looks random actually is not chaos, or what looks like chaos isn't necessarily random. The moving the planet moved ahead and then it moved back and then it moved ahead again and it slowed down and then it's perhaps not random at all, but a pattern that we probably haven't anticipated. And the studies show that people who can find those patterns or find pleasure in discovering those patterns,
Hmm.
they demonstrate a 42% higher analytical problem solving skill. They are 35% better at abstract reasoning, and they're significantly enhanced in their ability to see underlying order in complex systems. And this creates what researchers call pattern euphoria. And so what we're seeing here is a picture of the brain and how it works when it's dealing with the parts of the brain that are activated when you're working with math versus non-math statements, numbers versus other pictures, calculation versus sentence processing, and then the places where the yellow is where there's an intersection, the places that light up when there's an intersection of all those things.
Hmm.
So you could kind of see if you're a words person, you probably light up with in the yellow. But if you're a math person, your brain is lighting up in the areas of red. If you're a numbers person or a picture person, in the green. And if you just love calculus, calculating, your brain is lighting up in the blue. And I suppose that Kepler was a man who operated in all of these, and the yellows really lit up for him.
Hmm.
And so Kepler's joy was in thinking that God's thoughts could be his thoughts. That's an audacious thing
Hmm.
to think that God could actually and would actually share his thoughts with me. His thoughts about the universe, his thoughts about how things connect to each other. And that idea was optimizing his brain for supernatural pattern recognition. He believed it. So now he could really see those patterns. I mean, think about it. What makes someone think, well, they're ellipses, not circles?
Hmm.
Or even Newton, well, this force is gravitational. It's a force then. It's not a sphere and all of these things. Anyway, so there are brain body benefits to this as well. The joy that comes from pattern seeking, it increases dopamine for analytical motivation. And some people really, there's a euphoria when they figure things out. We have an accountant on the call, and I wonder if I remember doing accounts and the balance sheet would not balance, and I'd be frustrated. And the smaller the number it didn't balance by, the more frustrated I would be. If it didn't balance by $5,325, I'd be like, okay, I made an error. But if it didn't balance by 50 cents, oh, that used to be the most, I don't know if Rayanne feels the same way, but oh, I would hate when it didn't balance by $5 or $10 or a small number, $3.25 or something. So there's a joy that certain people experience when they can find a pattern or analyze certain things, and that is a motivation that enhances the parietal cortex. Am I saying that right? Parietal cortex for mathematical reasoning, and it activates the brain reward networks. So you're getting a hit of dopamine when that
Hmm.
balance sheet balances, or when you figure out the scientific underlying concept or force or whatever. So Kepler's body was actually being biochemically prepared for this type of cosmic and universal breakthrough because he kept getting dopamine hits, joy every time he discovered something new and he built on that process. This was programming his neural pathways for divine pattern recognition rather than, oh, this is a random occurrence. It's just a random observation. So, modern application, when you anchor your joy in seeking, Lord, what is your pattern in this? In your work, in school, in whatever, rather than accepting, oh, this is just chaotic. All these people, this whole thing is just a mess. It's just chaotic. Rather taking a step back and looking at it as where is the pattern here? You're not just being analytical, you're being spiritual. You're not just being spiritual, you're being neurologically astute. And that pattern-seeking joy is preparing your brain and body for analytical breakthrough. And that is what will be a divine impetus for change in your field. You know, and this makes me think that every night we've kind of been saying what sphere of influence or mountain of influence that everybody is in. And this dopamine hit, this choosing to not see things as random, but pulling back to see God's perspective and God's pattern, I think really sets us up to
Hmm.
be change makers in our individual spheres.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Ah, I'd like to chew on that.
Okay, so let me give you an example.
Okay.
There's this gentleman I know. He is a prolific scientist, I would call him, in his field. His
Mm,
field is the history of science. Anybody who writes about this particular father of modern medicine named Paracelsus kind of has to quote this gentleman, right? By the name, his name is Dane Daniel. And before Dane Daniel and his writing in Paracelsica or Paracelsian studies, I don't think there was much focus on Bible-based anything. Am I right about that?
with Paracelsus.
With Paracelsus.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
There was
I would
definitely some,
say,
but yeah.
okay, this scholar says there were definitely some, but I am this scholar's wife, so I will say it how I want to say it. I would say, okay, there
At
were
least in
definitely some.
Anglophone studies, people, yeah, left out the theological dimensions, the biblical dimensions of his thought. Yeah.
And so uh that scholar, Dane Daniel, stepping back and seeing a pattern. This
Hmm.
thing isn't a random mentioning of a Bible. This is actually a scripture quoted. I've done some work on some of his texts and some of the translations. And if you didn't know the Bible, the truth is you wouldn't know that that was a verse quoted verbatim,
Yeah.
word for
Bait.
word, verbatim. If you don't know scripture, then you wouldn't know. But all through this writing, I'm seeing, but honey, this is a verse, and this is a verse, and this is a verse. And so that ability to pull away and see a pattern, I would say disrupted uh Paracelsiana
Okay. Hmm.
uh compared to.
That's where she was going. I wasn't quite sure where she was going.
He had no idea what I was talking about. But now that you know the example I'm thinking of, what do you think? I think that all of us
Yeah,
have
in
the,
our areas.
yes, I think that this is the invitation that God is making to all of us in whatever sphere, whether we are accountants, uh, homemakers, botanists, whatever, we're writing a book. God is challenging us to not see chaos. Oh my, not see a random chaos, but to see that there is order here and try to develop what his pattern is.
Yeah, so very quickly then, we need to wrap this then. So, our Kepler inspired question is, what apparent chaos or randomness in your work might actually contain God's hidden patterns? And what would it look like to approach it with Kepler's joy in thinking God's thoughts starting today? Hmm. And his success secret is the divine pattern joy practice. Find delight in thinking God's thoughts by seeking his mathematical harmony and systematic order in your work rather than accepting chaos as random. Like Kepler discovering elliptical orbits in apparent planetary disorder, let joy in divine pattern recognition reveal God's geometric perfection hidden in work complexity. Yeah, it's pretty advanced. I mean, pretty advanced topic.
And I think God is inviting us to the advance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Daily Joy blurb is that joy doesn't accept chaos as random. Not because it looks chaotic means it's random. It seeks God's mathematical harmony in apparent disorder. Kepler discovered cosmic laws by thinking God's thoughts through planetary motion and found geometric perfection by seeking divine patterns in celestial mechanics.
Mechanics.
Yeah. And he experienced a divine intoxication. He got that those dopamine hits and like, oh, I got it.
Eureka.
Like if you're doing add math and something, you could put a QED at the end. It's like, oh my gosh. So by pursuing mathematical order rather than accepting randomness, it can't be solved. And so your joy in seeking God's patterns it will reveal systematic breakthrough and ordered innovation hidden right there in the midst of that work complexity.
All right. So before we wrap it up here, I noticed we had two. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Just wanted to look at the chat real quickly, but go
Sure.
ahead and wrap this up, hun, with our joy mission.
Yeah, so the Joy Mission, we're challenging you every day, as Dean started out, to encourage you to start your day in joy, not just setting the time, but the tone, starting your day in Him in thankfulness, entering the gates that way. Write down what you're thankful for. Then read two joy verses. Continue with a big destiny goal you can see yourself achieving. Write it down. And for this, see yourself achieving. These images are really important because what you see affects your heart. It's what you believe. You will have what you believe. So let this be your guide. And
Mhm.
this week, let us truly begin to see what it is this destiny goal is. Then we reverse engineer. We write down one small, consistent daily thing that will help us get there and do it. Say our declarations like the I am who is your father. I am responsible. Today I was singing it. I am strong and capable. Are your standards changing? Imagine yourself as future you. And that brings us to the end.
So thank you all for joining us so much. And then see you tomorrow. Another scientific journey and mathematical journey, I think. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, Eva. Goodbye. Oops, I don't think